Hello, much thanks and all credit to my father, without which this would not be possible. This story is for humanity, it's everything altogether. A legend of the smart, friendly, completely contemporary, transcendent heart lets embark at its epicenter, with the story of adventure that endeavors to be the measure of a success lasting and practical, undistracted by fleeting pleasures. One that outlasts your life and the stars in the sky. We take nothing with us the day we say our goodbyes. Unlike the pyramids, here are the riches you can actually bring with you when you die. What goes around comes around, and malicious villainous wickedness cripples us every time. Caused effects and consequence with every crime. Luck or karma, like dirty water, it needs to be purified. In layman's terms, a few words, the affirmations for which we search is learn to live in the world in ways loving and kind. We can be the cosmic auspiciousness in each moment and every minute we have within us, no fear or hate, just the greater impetus of infinite, unconditional, and limitless love. More captivating than the greatest one-hand handstands at your friend's latest kegger. More mesmerizing than pirates of the sky who continually fly in search of treasure. When prices of diamonds they normally buy skyrocket too high from bootleggers. This is the timeless legend of the Buddha and the beggar. The end of this introduction. Hi friends, how wonderfully marvelous. Like in the blistering heat of the desert during the hottest day, watermelon cold as ice and lemonade. Thank you for joining me today. May love, hope, and peace be with you wherever you go. This is the story of a homeless beggar and his journey to get a blessing and ask a few questions of destiny to the Buddha. If you've never heard it, don't worry, I'll speak it to you. Whether promises of comets or something more nebular, or subatomic harmonics on levels intracellular, he was just a beggar, average and regular. So one day this homeless man was at Tascan walking around asking people he found in town if they had any amount of spare change, or if they'd seen any pennies or other coins on the ground. He collected pennies, nickels, and dimes to survive the times he had to improvise while trying to apply his heart, body, and mind in search of what he could find. His pursuit of the truth was water and food. And in this way he spent his days, but was in for a rude awakening. He received gifts and borrowed, but every day that would follow would always include a new disappointment of which he totally disapproved. But one day he caught the thief. It was a 3-ounce mouse that would steal most of all of the beggar's meager allowance. So the man asked him, "Why are you snatching what I begged, bought, and gathered right up from my basket? I don't even have 2 shoes, a hat, or a jacket. And I barely have enough food to eat to be healthy. Why don't you go and steal from some people more wealthy? Some have so much, neither your greatest or finest theft any day of the week would have the slightest effect. Because when you steal from me, it leaves me mostly with nothing left. Plus, you'll use your time more effectively." The mouse then said, "That's not the point, it's a matter of destiny. And yours happens to be so written that at any given time, you can't have any more than 8 items in your possession. No matter how much you begged and bought at the grocery mart, no matter how much you gather, it'll all rot, fall, and roll, or be stolen right after. I hate to burst your bubble, bro, but 8 items and that's that. I know right now you can't stand me, but please understand this. No excuses for future use. I can write you a memorandum." The homeless man was shell-shocked, senseless, felt desperate and helpless at this unpleasance and destiny. Especially in a universe which he once heard is supposed to be composed mostly of empathy. He thought that made sense, conceptually. But right now, it feels so much more like my enemy. I was begging, saving, striving to buy a high-end supply of thiamine vitamins, but 8 items? Please do some enlightening. And tell me why. The mouse said, "Great question, kudos and hallelujah, but how should I know? I'm just his messenger to you. But when I was a baby, my grandmother was amazing, the ultimate volunteer. She'd help me to tie my shoes and clean my ears. She still is the most beautiful woman in the biosphere. She used to tell me stories of the sea, land, and sky, and this guy named the Buddha. Hear this, bear with me. Imagine being one with the experience of an inherent lightning, thunder, and rainstorm, neither revering or plundered by delight ignited or pain torn. Without fear, a sincere, perseverant spirit from near the stratosphere reappeared, was finally provided the wonder to take form. coherent with Aphrodite and Poseidon proclaiming their aim for a change of the game score. Thus born, sweeter with more swagger than candy and wrappers. Lights fast, he travels faster, speed reads through libraries without missing a chapter. Sits in stillness by rivers flowing, is not that well known, but it's told that he's all knowing. They say he's illuminated and his luminescent essence is continually growing. Some say it's way overrated, but when he's meditating, knowing whether coming or going, no passerby can deny that he's lovingly glowing. Not even the hummingbirds, not the humans or fireflies, and the name he goes by is the Buddha. He's said to swim distances like an Olympian, like through the Bermuda to get to Cuba to scuba with barracudas, is revivified by ice-cold showers as if the fragrance of flowers and is unfathomably too powerful, is made of endless acceptance and is without preference. He's a full lotus, a chameleon, and a chrysanthemum. His psychic aura is like a creative chorus, opening porous doors to rainforests just before they pour more than a plethora on their cores of adorable flora, that then shine brighter with more of a color than the auroras, highlighted by lightning storms, roaring informally, whose important chore before scoring rapport is to floor you by exploring mine and your imagination with language abnormally, like profound playgrounds made around crores of flora and fauna for a swarm of 44 adorable snoring piranhas. So the beggar heard the mouse's recountal, thought it was pretty wordy. His whiskers weren't so sturdy. The way that he spoke and scurried was a little bit nerdy. But that if any of it were true, a trip is totally worth it. So first thing the next morning, he woke up early and set out on his journey to meet the Buddha and tell him of all his concerns and worries. Along the way, it got late. A wealthy family outside their mansion, enjoying the sunset's emotion, mentioned that they had plenty of space and that it was okay, so they gave him a place to stay. The last rays of the sun shone, not minding the clouds blocking. Pretty parrots were squawking. Right when he walked in, the first question they asked him was, "Young man, if I can so say, why in the world are you traveling so late?" Young man, if I can so say, why in the world are you traveling so late? Duh, because better than never is late. Ha, just kidding. I just told her and hit my quota of one joke a day. I have a few questions to ask the Buddha, and tomorrow I'm on my way. Wow, now how great. A man in search of the Buddha. I wonder why it is that there is so very few of you. But please, can we give you a question to ask him too? You see, we have a 16-year-old daughter who lost her voice, and we don't know how to support her. She can't speak, and of any remedy, we haven't the slightest clue. We don't know what to do. We need some way to help her so her voice is able to debut. The homeless man was mindful of how kind they had been. He said, "Thank you for the shelter and refuge. Of course, when I meet the Buddha, I'll ask your question for you." So the next morning, he continues his journey, but soon found himself at a loss of self-esteem. The tears he wept, instantly freezing as he leaned into these feelings, not believing in his proceedings and that he'd ever achieve things. The moment that he'd seen what he'd soon needed to traverse, with only a paperclip, a penny, and a piece of floss. So when he had seen a sea of ice-capped mountains, he thought twice about how to the family of the girl he had already gave his word, but couldn't imagine how to go on through the hail of a lightning storm and simultaneous blizzard. And it made him dizzy to see it was teeming with screaming, heated and steaming, beast-depleting venomous lizards. He thought these obstacles, like venomous lizards lightning a blizzard and permafrost, would deem what seemed to be these seas of mountains almost impossible to cross. But just then a voice from thin air spoke, saying, "Let me show you how to run the gauntlet like a wizard does." At first he was timid, suspicious, outright defiant, but then he looked in his eyes and saw he also was an aspirant. So he changed his ways to mildly non-compliant. But over time he saw the wizard in every way was impeccable and precise. More important than his appearance, his spirit and mind were right, without any vice or avarice. So eventually he took his advice. They became each other's alliances. Thus transformed, he from then on bore the true heart of a lion. The wizard said, "Take my hand, we'll get there together," and with his staff in the other hand raised it high in the sky, and by the count of 9 and 5 strides they were flying. Conversing in the sky, the wizard finally asked him where he was going and why he had decided to cross these mountains. The young man went on to say, "I'm a homeless man making my way to the Buddha with a few questions of destiny." The wizard then said, Can you please also ask him a question about me? I've heard he can see different future possibilities." and guide people according to their chosen trajectory. You see, I've been trying to ascend to the heavenly spheres for 1,111 celestial years, and according to my teachings, with which I am quite clear, I should be there by now, but somehow I'm still here. Can you please ask the Buddha, what do I have to do to get to heaven in less than another 1,111 years? Yes, thanks for the lift and assist. The young man said, yes, thanks for the lift and assist. You're like the personification of a present or gift. I was feeling that my existence is a bit insignificant to travel the distance. I was feeling that my existence is a bit too insignificant to travel the distance, and at that instant, I surely couldn't go any further. You appeared in your magnificence, with no ploys to enjoy what you could destroy. Just the positive, overwhelming optimism and the power of the preserver. Of course, I'll do my best to ask your question for you. He said, see you later. He didn't believe in goodbyes. He then continued on his journey even more in a hurry. Thankful for the family and the wizard showing him so much mercy. But soon after they separated, he ran into his last obstacle, a river so wide and vast, covered so thick in moss, there was no way he could swim across it. He was hurting. To get this far took a lot of exertion. He felt uncertain, started off so determined, but every step of the way meant carrying a heavier burden. His equilibrium was inverted. He thought this would be the defeating hurdle. But just then, from around the river bend, came a giant turtle. The turtle said, it looks as if you're trying to cross. Are you ready? The young man said, yes, I'm ready. The turtle said, it's a bit cold in the river. Stay high and dry up on my back so you don't shiver. As they began to cross the river, the turtle asked him where he was going and why. I have a few questions of destiny, so I'm going to see the Buddha and hope to get a reply. The turtle said, how wonderfully marvelous. Can you please ask him a question pertaining to me? I also want to know about my future and destiny. You see, I've been trying to become a dragon for 500 years. According to my teachings, I should have become a dragon by now, but still how to is unclear. Can you please ask the Buddha, what do I have to do to become a dragon if I'm willing to persevere? The young man thanked the turtle for taking him across the river, his last hurdle, and said, of course, when I meet the Buddha, I'll ask a question for you. The young man finally meets the Buddha, who then told everyone new to this ceremonial gathering called a puja, I will answer 3 questions for everyone here, but only 3 questions. The young man was shocked, senseless. The young man was shocked. His attention was instantly redirected to his stomach, which was wrenching as if he had indigestion. He realized he had 4 questions and could barely think carefully. But he thought about his friends. The turtle's been living for 500 years trying to become a dragon. The wizard's been trying to get to heaven for more than 1,000 and still hasn't. And that young girl is going to have to live her whole life unable to speak aside from a miracle or magic. He looked at himself and realized he was just a homeless beggar and could just go back home and continue begging. So as he looked at everybody else's problems, his problems suddenly seemed so small. He felt sorry for the turtle, the wizard, and young girl. He decided to ask all of their questions for them. So he asked the Buddha, and the Buddha answered, the turtle is unwilling to leave his shell. As long as he's unwilling to leave his shell, he will never become a dragon. The wizard always carries his staff and never puts it down, which weighs him down, keeping him from heaven. And as for the girl, she'll be able to speak when she meets her soulmate. So the homeless man bowed to the Buddha, and early the next morning set out on his journey home. He reunited with the turtle and told the turtle, hey, you just have to take off your shell and you'll become a dragon. The turtle then took off his shell, and inside his shell were priceless pearls found in the deepest parts of the ocean. And he gave them to the homeless man and said, thank you, I no longer need these now that I'm a dragon. He looked out over the horizon into the sky and reached real wide with his wings that he always had but were hidden inside, and flew away. The homeless man then reunites with the wizard of the mountains and said, hey, you just have to put down your staff and you'll be able to go to heaven and not have to wait for another 1111. The wizard let go of his staff by giving it to the young man. He said, thank you, and began his ascension, floating upwards in a green and yellow column of light towards the heavens. So now the young man had wealth from the turtle and power from the wizard. He then reunites with the family that gave him shelter. He told them, the Buddha said your daughter will be able to speak when she meets her soulmate. And at that moment, the daughter came downstairs and said, hey, is that the man that was here last week? So the young girl and the once homeless man had found their soulmates. The end. I feel this story tells us so many things, so many lessons. But what I got from it at my level of comprehension, which I'll express, is that sometimes we have to give in order to get. To become a dragon or a lion, we have to be willing to take the steps. We have to be upfront with ourselves and ready to leave behind what makes us feel most comfortable and step out on the front lines and set aside what makes us feel most safe. We have to leave our comfort zone, just like the turtle, to get to our life on the next page. And in order to find true love, we must become somebody who is willing to put our own desires up on the shelf as they learn to put others before themselves. I know when you're alone and you're lost in thought, your problem seems so big, too much to watch, so many thoughts, and you feel distraught. And it may seem like the end of the world, but if we look at the lives of other women and men, boys and girls, people who may not have as much opportunity as us, people you see crossing the street or on the bus who have it worse than us, it sometimes makes our problems seem so much smaller. Our perspective gets broader. And if we're willing to lend a hand to those who are struggling even more than us and are willing to help them, it just might change the course of our own life. Your destiny in the universe may repay you in such a way that you would have never imagined. It will all come back to you, all the love and compassion that you show the world will ripple out and return to you, all your good thoughts, words, and actions. If you're going through hard times right now, I hope this story helps. I guess the moral to this story is the total polar opposite of Lego my ego. Thank you for watching my poem of the story of the Buddha and the Beggar.